Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Thanks so much for being with us. The phone number again, 870-275-9799. Want to announce this segment sponsored by the Patriots of Act 746. Joining us now, I want to welcome back to the program. We have Mr. Gary Epperson is on the line with Patriots of Act 746. Gary, thanks for coming on the program.
Good afternoon, Paul. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So we were able to do this segment, and I know you called in kind of at the tail end of it last week.
Correct.
And what we were talking about is how the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, I mean, we're talking about, a lot of people are about to head to the deer woods, and we were talking about how the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission interprets Act 746, which, for those of you that don't know what that is, we're essentially talking about constitutional carry. What do you know about this, Gary?
Officially, all they will recognize is carrying a handgun with a barrel length of 4 inches or less with a concealed handgun license. Privately, in their staff meetings, they acknowledge Act 746, but they will not put it out to public.
And you found this out because you guys FOIA'd some of their internal emails, and you discovered that they're very much aware of Act 746, very much aware of constitutional carry. Is there anything in those emails that lead you to believe that they're afraid of people having a sidearm when they're out hunting? And we're talking about what, wildlife management areas, is that correct?
Well, basically, yes, wildlife management areas, but it also can go in any area in the national forest, whether it be the Ozarks or the Ouachitas or anywhere. Okay.
So are they just afraid of the Second Amendment? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, I really don't know. It's I don't really see any problem with it. Now, I can understand the fact that they are going to follow the Attorney General's position as far as her not recognizing the act for carrying without a concealed handgun license, but there is no reason for them to not publicly acknowledge that a person can carry open without a permit.
I mean, what?
There's no reason. I don't see any reason other than habits from the past.
Okay, so that's actually a good point. Kind of tying this with the current Attorney General opinion, but that opinion, I mean, it essentially just says, hey, open carry is a thing, but you can't conceal carry without a concealed carry permit. Bailing out the Arkansas State Police. So,
right,
so what would they care if you're open carrying while you're out hunting?
Well, they should prefer it over concealed carry. I mean, it's no different than carrying a firearm. Game wardens deal with it every day. And I should add, the game wardens that I've spoke to, they don't want caught up in the mess. They more or less tell me, we're going to follow 746. It's not an issue with us.
I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, when I'm in the deer woods, I hunt with a 270. It's a high-powered rifle. It's a lot more dangerous than a 9mm. I mean, you know what I mean? Come on. And if you ask any soldier if they'd rather have a sidearm or a rifle, they're going to say they'd rather have a rifle every time.
Every time. And that since you said that brings up a point that I've been trying to make. Most of your crime involving firearms in rural areas are with a rifle. They're not with a handgun. Now, I haven't researched it in depth, but generally it'll involve a side or a long gun. And in 2003, I believe it was, and I may have told this story before, my wife and I and another lady was in a campground on the Forest Service, and we had just left that campground, and a gunman opened up on 2 campers and killed them, and he had a rifle. Which brings to the point, let the person carry what they choose to carry to protect themselves, because a lot of times a handgun's not going to do any good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right. We're talking with Gary Epperson of Patriots of Act 746. It's a Facebook group. You guys are 10,000 strong, and you guys want to educate folks on basically the change in Arkansas gun laws. We have the Arkansas State Police that don't really want to acknowledge this too much, and I want to get to that here in a minute. But I do want to read from the law because I know you guys want to educate. It says very plain, a person commits the offense of carrying a weapon if he or she possesses a handgun, knife, or club on or about his or her person in a vehicle occupied by him or her or otherwise readily available for use with a purpose to attempt to unlawfully employ the handgun, knife, or club as a weapon against a person, making it very difficult to prove. Gary, we just want to remind everybody out there that possessing a weapon in Arkansas has been decriminalized. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
Okay.
And I might also add our past Democrat Attorney General candidate also agreed and went a step further and felt like it addressed prohibited areas also.
Really? Hang on a second. You're saying that the Democrat candidate for Attorney General that ran against Leslie Rutledge, he thought it went also applied into prohibited areas?
Yes.
Now, that's not private prohibited areas like a business owner that you're talking about, like the Capitol or a government building. Okay.
The government. And that was his position that he took prior to Act 746 under the Journey Law. I mean, we basically did the same thing in this area of the state prior to 746 because open carry never has been against the law.
Yeah.
And now the concealed carry at one time was prohibited, but at that point, all you had to do was justify the journey, and everybody had that down pat. And our law enforcement over here didn't really worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the point that Nate Steele was trying to make on getting a conviction under that clause. They just wouldn't prosecute it.
Wow. Hey, let me ask you this: talk about jurisdiction. I mean, are most jurisdictions kind of on board with this now, or do they all have their individual policies still? I mean, I'm sure you've seen this, but I do the show. I do the show out of Jonesboro, and they're hosting some sort of. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for it. They are hosting a Buy Your Gun Back event here in a couple of weeks. Have you seen this? It's an embarrassment to me.
Yes, I saw that, and I think some folks are planning on maybe going up and helping them out. I wish I wasn't so far. I would be there too.
I just feel like somebody needs to protest and just with a sign across the street saying, "Don't let the government take your guns." Like, just don't. Like, let's stop.
Don't be surprised there's not somebody there doing that.
Well, they're giving away $50 gift certificates. Anyway, so, for your gun. But so anyway, Gary, what's the enforcement like across the state in the different jurisdictions?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I had an opportunity. I had a chief of police call me. I won't name him right now. Called me a week or so ago and wanted me to stop by and visit. And I did today when I was up in northwest Arkansas. He's a real good guy. And I've got the same idea from several law enforcement folks across the state. And their point is the legislature has passed so many confusing gun laws that there's a point they're throwing up the hands and basically doing what Act 746 says. If you're not doing anything wrong, we're not going to bother you. But this chief of police wanted to talk with me on what, law enforcement could do. And he said, there's a lot more law enforcement on board with this than you guys know. And I said, well, I've got a pretty good idea that there is more because I talk to them every day. And I said, one of the things that would help more than anything to kind of bring the divide together, establish public relations between the two, I said it would be nice if somebody come down from the law enforcement community and helped us testify for or against these Second Amendment bills. And he said, well, I'll be glad to do that. And he would. I know this guy. And I said, here is the problem. I said, if we put out a call to come down to testify for or against the bill, I said, what will happen? It will get moved or it will get rescheduled, and it won't be heard. And the same way with calling our members down there. I mean, we don't. Just as sure as we do, and most of our people are working, and other groups are the same way on these bills.
Yep.
If they call their groups in, well, they get down there, and I know one group that did that 3 times. They had to make 3 trips, and every time they were losing folks.
So for
because
those,
they couldn't take off work.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is, hey, if we want to get a bill passed, it's got to go through the committee process, and the committee process is controlled by the leadership. And what's frustrating to me, Gary, is when they passed this military retirement tax cut. And what a sham that was, which is now actually, we're going to increase or decrease the military retirement, and we're going to use the military to raise taxes elsewhere. We now know that bill was a net tax increase of $5.9 million from the taxpayers, and they used veterans as an excuse to do it. When that bill ran, and they were deceptively busing the veterans in, essentially, all of these veterans came. Guess what? They didn't all of a sudden pull the bill and not run it on that day. The leadership made sure it ran when it's advantageous to get what they want.
They absolutely did, and I got to give credit. I talked to my representative quite a bit about this, Marcus Richmond, which we both of us, it helps us with our military retirement. I was against it because, to me, the military's been good to me. I've got a good retirement. A lot of people are out here struggling that don't have a retirement and trying to make it ends meet from day to day. And to me, it wasn't fair. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't right. And that's the reason Marcus voted the way he did.
Yeah.
And which brings up another point, in the same way these Second Amendment bills and that bill, if he'd have voted against that bill, then the people that wasn't aware would have slammed him for not being pro-veteran.
Yep.
And don't understand it. In the same way the Second Amendment bill. You got a lot of these legislatures that absolutely hate this enhanced campus carry mess.
Yep. But
if they voted against it, well, then the NRA, here they come and give them a bad grade.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. We're talking with Gary Epperson, Patriots of Act 746. Gary, this enhanced carry, I saw you made a Facebook post the other day that said something like along the lines of, only in Arkansas when the politicians double down on restrictions to your Second Amendment, do they say that they actually protected your gun rights. This is the enhanced carry to carry on college campuses and the Capitol, but you have to go through extra training. You're going to have to pay more money, another tax, in order to exercise your Second Amendment rights. What are your thoughts?
Well, to me, it's garbage. Because they use the term nominal, very nominal fee. Well, that license is going to cost, I can guarantee you, it'll cost $300 plus for that license, which is against the state constitution, I might add, on equal rights and privileges. It's just frustrating, and a lot of our reps didn't like it, but that's what they got to vote on.
Well,
and they're afraid to vote against it.
And that's Asa Hutchinson's fault because he didn't want broad Second Amendment legislation. I mean, he didn't. He stood up there, and when he stood up there, and the NRA stood up there with him, and I feel like lost a lot of credibility with me. And he called it a Second Amendment privilege, basically like this is the responsibility of the government to license your rights back to you. And then when he started getting tough questions about, football stadiums and things like that, so whatever Second Amendment credibility was there, Asa Hutchinson signed the bill and immediately had Senator Jonathan Dismang undermine it by now saying you won't be able to go take it into stadiums now.
That shell bill was setting. We were watching that shell bill when it was filed, and we knew it was for something, and that's what it was for.
Can I ask you a question, Gary? Feel free to disagree or agree, but this to me just reeks of elitism, and the reason is I have a suspicion. I don't have this confirmed, but I have a suspicion that a lot of those senators and state reps down there running around the Capitol are already carrying concealed, just for their own personal protection. There's low risk. They're not going to get in any trouble for it, even if they do get caught. And they wanted a way to be able to continue to do that and do it legally. Do you get the feeling that that's really why they passed this?
Well, I don't know if that's the reason they passed it or not, but I'm sure that many of them do. If I was down there, I can guarantee you I would be. Because the more than I've been down there, I've already figured out how to walk in that building and all that. But
right.
I don't know if that's the reason they did or didn't. But I suspicion some are. If they're not and can get by with it, well, shame on them.
Yeah. I mean,
that's nullification the way I see it.
Well, I mean, I just feel like some of them wanted the ability to carry legally, and they're happy to go through the privilege tax. They're happy to do all this in order to do it legally. We're talking with Gary Epperson, Patriots of Act 746. Next, go ahead, Gary. What were you going to say?
The one thing quickly on that, if they want to restrict weapons in the Capitol, I don't have a real heartburn with them having security and all that, and they do actual security. What I would like to see them do is put secured lockers up somewhere at that location where if you're walking to and from the Capitol, you could have a place to securely store your weapon.
Mm-hmm. That would be nice, certainly, because, if you look, the parking there is not great. You're asking citizens who need to come there to monitor their government and what they're doing, like some of the sham pieces of legislative sleight of hand that go on, and they got to walk a long way from their car, where they're putting themselves at risk, sacrificing their Second Amendment in order to go, check the government, make sure they're not raising taxes and stuff like that. So you got a good point there, Gary.
About a quarter of a mile walk for us from where we park.
I want to ask you one more thing, real quick. Courthouse bills. So tell me about this and how it marries with enhanced carry, the idea of carrying in a courthouse.
Well, I still hadn't had a chance to research it completely out, Paul, but the enhanced carry includes carrying in the courthouses. However, after the enhanced carry passed, you had 2, maybe 3 bills after that come through. Let's see, Representative Bob Ballinger had one, and Representative Mickey Gates had the other. And Representative Bob Ballinger was trying to address officers who were committing actually, I believe, a felony when they carried into the courtroom with a weapon. And he was trying to address that, but in doing so, they put the circuit judges over the entire courthouse. So that bill is in a mess because the county judge is over the courthouse. It's not the circuit judge. I don't know what they're going to do to fix that. Then you had Representative Mickey Gates bill come through, which, for permission slips, it was a good bill. I'm not going to gripe too much about it. That allowed county employees to carry into the courthouse. So none of those bills addressed being able to carry into that courthouse with an enhanced license.
I see. So there may be legislation that breeds more legislation and all this other stuff, and more opportunity for them to, restrict our rights even more. That's the way I feel about it. Last question, Gary Epperson. Act 486, which was passed. That was State Representative John Payton's bill, clarifying to the Arkansas State Police, hey, listen, we have a constitutional right to our Second Amendment. Has the Arkansas State Police acknowledged the existence of Act 486 and how it was passed really to legislatively counter what they were doing, trying to punish people from exercising their open carry right while having a concealed carry permit?
Well, Rule 1.5 of the concealed handgun rules covered carrying open. However, we had some issues with that. And the Arkansas State Police officially wouldn't recognize that rule. So Representative Payton passed that, or got the bill through. How, I don't know, but he did, and I thank him a lot for it. Mm-hmm. His original bill, he had to tweak to get the Arkansas State Police to go along with it and not oppose the bill. Thankfully, the Arkansas State Police and their chief legal counsels evidently don't understand how the Constitution applies, and the first line of that sentence nullifies the entire rest of that bill and the concealed handgun rules. because now you have a constitutional right to carry that's codified into the concealed handgun rules and statutes.
Wow. Well, and maybe that's why the Arkansas State Police won't respond. I mean, have they responded? Do they even acknowledge this change?
I sent an email to them. I'd have to check for the date, but it's been approximately 2 months to Chief Counsel Greg Downs, and he is yet to respond.
Okay. Well, I'm going to reach out to Bill Sadler then at the spokesperson and see what I can dig up. But I'd like for them to respond to the existence of Act 486, how they're going to do things differently now.
I'll send you the copy of the email here shortly.
Okay, please do. Gary, hey, I appreciate it, sir. We're out of time. This has been a great Patriots of Act 746 segment, very informative. So I think you guys are accomplishing your goal, educating folks on what Act 746 means. Gary, I appreciate it, sir. Look forward to doing it again.
Well, I thank you, Paul.
All righty. Be safe.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
You too.
Folks, we are going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment. The Liberty Machine rolls on next.